Hello. Hello. Hi. So I see that Donna's here and Shannon. Jeannie, good morning. Sharon, good morning. Dina, good morning. And Joyce, my regulars. So nice to have you here with me. I'm really looking forward to this today. I'm definitely feeling that I need my energy to be balanced. Uh, Yeah. And I'm looking forward to the physical aspects. I look so forward to taking the time out to be in, to take that time out with you guys where I'm not going to say push myself farther, but I actually go deeper in the practice. So, not always, I don't always practice my own practice for an hour. I find that I break it up into pieces. So I love that we have this opportunity to practice together like this. Yes. And then let me see, Carol. Good morning. Um, okay, good. Yeah, I'm wondering, I definitely, yoga saves my life, and I really don't know how people live without having some kind of practice in their lives that helps with the mental aspects of life because it's so to let your mind go into crazy places and to get into a place of hopelessness or worry or fear. And whenever that happens for me, I just bring in this yogic wisdom and I try to stay present moment, realize that nothing else matters but this very moment. And then I feel this oppression of when I let myself get out of control. And then when I share it with others, it seems like other people say, yeah, me too. So it's like, wait, maybe there's this like oppressive force around all of us, which I think there is. I think there's a lot of contractive force these days that contributes to many of us feeling heavy emotionally. And so hopefully we're in for a shift that's lighter. And I was just thinking yesterday how nice it's going to be to look back and to be like, oh my gosh, do you remember that was so crazy when things are not so crazy again? So I was thinking about the hopefulness of the time when this won't be the case and how having the two comparisons, sometimes that, if everything were just monotone and gray, then all we would see is gray. Sometimes we need the contrast in order to really experience and to feel. So this is the harder time. This is the more heavy time. And that means that the next part of the journey will be light. That's my hope. Um, yeah, so that's how I'm gonna think about this, because if you think about your life, that's kind of how life works. And if you look at the many different aspects of your life, there are times that are heavier and then there's times that are light. And so yogic wisdom, beyond the mat, beyond the physical asana part, when we do practice present moment, when you think about it, right now we're all here getting ready to practice yoga. So that's actually amazing. We're so fortunate that we have this opportunity, that we actually have technology to assist us and guide us, that we could take this time out to connect to our breath, connect to our mind, move our bodies. Like, wow, we are so lucky that this is what we have right now. So if we stay in this present moment right here, right now, then it is good and it is light. And that's what we try to do. So the more often we could stay there, the better. So with that said, let me see some of the comments. Yeah. Yeah, and it is. I mean, to be a human being, like the goal of yoga, the end result is liberation from suffering, because to be a human is to suffer because of this journey of life. And many of us have had times where it is heavy and or more heavy and we're like, "Oh God, this is horrible." Um, and then there's times where it's light. So anyway, let's do a little bit first. Let's do a breathing exercise to begin, where we balance out the energetics inside so that we can actually be very present moment right now. We can stay here and really be with us. Athena, my friend, I haven't seen you for so long. I'm so happy to know that you're here with us. Athena is my fellow yoga therapy friend who studied with me in my program. And I'm so happy to have that opportunity. Okay, so yoga is not just the physical, it's also the sharing of that information. And so I'd like to begin today with a technique to help balance our energy. And I'm going to give you a few positions for sitting. So you could come elevated on a pillow or a bolster or a folded blanket and crisscross your legs. This is called Sukhasana, easy seat pose. So this could be a way that you start, and that's okay. And for those of you with knee issues, this may be the easier way to allow flexion to come into the knee joint, because when you're in this external rotation position, it makes movability for your hips and your knees. Well, not so much your hips. Your hips can actually show some tightness here. If you do have hips that are tight and elevated, or even if it's one and not the other because maybe you have an issue, having a support underneath your knees is going to be good. This is a way to minimize what happens to you physically, and that's important so that you don't have the physical disrupting the mental, the mind. The other way I'm going to recommend is Vajrasana, which is a great place to be, and maybe not for those of you with knee flexion issues. It's fantastic. You could take a block or 2 blocks. And for those of you with knee flexion, if you try to have a higher support so your knees don't bend so deeply, that may be a little more relaxing. So if you have 2 blocks, you could take 2 blocks, or at least have the block on its edge. And you'll see that the block is between my ankle joint, so that when you come to sit down, for those of you that are able to actually do this, it will feel super yummy. It's a really yummy position because it puts the pelvis and then the spine in this nice alignment and supported alignment, so that you feel actually very relaxed and you can actually allow the weight of gravity to go down. So that's an option. Or you can take the bolster and bring the bolster or a pillow or something in between your heels. For those of you with tight top feet, this could pose issues. So these are my favorite ways to sit, and I hopefully gave a description for all of you with issues in your tissues so that you could find something in your body like this. So then we are going to do this Nadi Shodhana, or this alternate nostril breathing, which will actually help to balance out both hemispheres of the brain and to regulate our breathing rate. So find yourself in whatever is a comfortable seated position for you, whether it's the Sukhasana or the supported Vajrasana. You find what works for you. And then the way that this breath rate works is we're going to use our hands. Now, this is the way that I learned in India, and if you have another way of doing it, that's fine. But I learned this where you take the pointer finger and the middle finger and you bend the fingers and you bend them down. And we're going to use the thumb to close off the right nostril and the left nostril. And if you come to that round part, use your fingers or your thumb to close it off. It doesn't have to be that you push hard. And so right now, try to clear any stickiness that exists in your nose. Sometimes people prefer to blow their nose, and traditionally in India, we would have done a series of cleansing routines, one of them being maybe a neti pot to clean out any kind of congestion that exists in the nose. So with the alternate nostril breathing, we're going to breathe in completely through a nostril, close it off, exhale completely through the nostril, inhale completely through the nostril, and close it off. And I'm going to guide you so you don't need to know that part. You'll just listen to what I'm saying, pay a lot of attention to exactly where the breath comes into the body and leaves the body, which is right at the nostrils. So find yourself in your comfortable seated position, get your hands in a ready position, thumb closing off the right nostril. Close off the right nostril, begin to breathe in and out through the left nostril, and close your eyes. Let the left hand rest on top of the thighs. And then bring your awareness to your breath. Allow your breath to be what it is. You're closing off your right nostril, and you're just inhaling and exhaling through that left nostril. And this is a moon breath, which can actually have a nice calming effect on the mind. Distractions, and if you need to move your position to find something a little more comfortable before you begin to practice your pranayama. So let's take a breath to clear. Inhale through the left nostril and exhale through the left nostril. All the way. Let's begin. Inhale through the close off the left nostril, exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close off the right, exhale through the left. Inhale left. Close off left, exhale right. Inhale right. Close off the right, exhale left. Inhale left. Close off the left, exhale right. Inhale right. Close off the right, exhale left. Inhale left. Close off the left, exhale right. Inhale right. Close off the right, exhale left. Inhale left. Close off the left, exhale right. Inhale right. Close off the right, exhale left. Continue on your own. Try to slow down the breath. Try to even out the inhale and the exhale. Pay attention to the breath coming in the nostrils and the breath leaving the nostrils. Finishing the round that you're on, and then take 2 more complete rounds. You end when you exhale with your left nostril. When you're finished, keep your eyes closed. Let your hands rest on your thighs. Let your breath go back to a natural rhythm. And maybe even a new natural rhythm that you just established. Bring your awareness to how you feel from an emotional, from an energetic, and from a mental perspective. The activity of the mind, the feeling of calmness in the body, of heaviness in the body, of relaxation in the body. Bring your hands together. Let's rub the hands together. Cover your eyes. Bring your awareness to the eyelids and allow the eyelids to gently start to blink themselves open. And when you do that, when you blink your eyes open, you also may notice a heaviness, another indicator of that relaxation that you're able to stimulate when you practice this breath. Let's take the kink out of the hoses. So the knees were bent for a little while there. Let's come onto all fours. If you need to put your blanket down for your knees, do that. Let's come and take the legs, shaking the legs behind you to let the blood flow back down to the legs. Then take one foot, flip the toes under, push that heel back, do a little wiggle woggle here. Take your fingers, press your fingers into the floor so you're not loading down too much on your wrists here. Feel the calf stretch, feel the leg lengthen. And then let's go to the other side. Take the other foot back. Flip the toes under, stretching the calf, unkinking the hose, so to speak, unkinking the vessels that fluids flow through in your body and the nerves that conduct electrical impulses up and down your body. And then bring yourself up. We are going to do a chest expansion to begin today because this postural position contributes to fractures from osteoporosis in the spine, which is where half of them are. And so this postural position, this in the body, we're going to work to do the opposite. So we're going to do a supported back bend to begin today, arriving on the mat. Now, this is a bolster. Not everybody has a bolster, but a bolster, you could get a blanket to become a bolster. So you could take a blanket or a towel and you could roll your blanket or towel up. Now, if you do have a towel, I'm going to recommend that you don't roll it too tightly because it would be nice for you to not have anything underneath your head if you can. So if you have a blanket, maybe you could try a couple of folds. Or if you have a bolster, you could put the bolster underneath and you're going to need a block with that bolster. So you may also need a block if you have a blanket. So let's see what is appropriate for your body. And then remember, when we come down with osteo, we don't want to round the spine. So even when we move, raising awareness to our movement patterns. So bring yourself down, reaching your arm away. The bolster, blanket, or whatever it is you have is going to be right behind the heart, right behind the bra line area, and have the knees bent at first. Let the arms go out to the side. And then here you do a self-analysis of what's appropriate for you with your issues. So for those of you with shoulder issues, maybe having the arms out to the side is a little too intense. You may need to bring the arms down. Maybe for those of you that want, need, and can handle a little more intensity, arms out to the side and then bend your elbows, bringing yourself into a scarecrow arm position or a goalpost arm position. The arms are up, and bring yourself into a place where you feel the most stretch happening, where the arms attach to the body or along the side ribs, stretching some of those deep muscles that are postural muscles, helping to open up and stretch out the ones, lengthen the ones that get tight from that posture, bad posture position. And then allowing the ones in the back of the body to go back to their natural state so they can be more effective at holding you up. The knees can be bent, the feet can be wider than the body, and the knees fall in towards each other. Closing your eyes and feeling in your body what you feel. Feel your sacrum, which is the base of your spine. The base of the spine is embedded in the pelvis, so feel that connection. Feel what that feels like on the floor. Notice what you notice here. Notice if there is any asymmetry in your pelvis. Do you feel any more pull or sensations of one side versus the other? Notice if you feel any sensations in the low back. And if the low back has any kind of pulling or stretching, maybe keeping the knees bent is better for you. And then for those that want to work on lengthening and their body is okay doing that, you could explore taking the legs straight and see if the stretch still stays up near the shoulders and near the front chest, top chest, and it doesn't go to the low spine. And another way to help that is to press your heart up towards the sky or hug your lumbar spine with your core and push your belly button to your spine. Or try to imagine that you're pushing the top edge of your pelvis onto the floor. So trying these different ways to increase your interoception or your body awareness, which in the long run can be very therapeutic for you and can help you learn how to posturally align yourself throughout the day, which can keep you in a nice functional movement patterns and out of wear and tear or excessive wear and tear in your joints. Let's let the breath help facilitate what we're doing here. So let the mouth be closed, breathe in the nose, and breathe to the lungs. And feel your lungs expand and feel your lungs contract with breath. See if you go a little bigger with your breath, if you feel even more stretch taking place in your chest. And then take 3 more breaths like this. And then when you finish, let's bring movement into the fingers, into the toes. Bring yourself into a fully extended position. So let your legs go straight. And if the knees were bent and they don't like to straighten, then keep them bent. Take the arms overhead. Stretch, stretch, stretch whatever you can. Try to stretch as if you were in this perfectly aligned position where both wrists were evenly moving away from you. And then notice, for those of you with wrist issues, how that feels. Maybe for you, it needs to be that your arms, you think about your fingertips lengthening, and then reach your toes away to lengthen your legs. And be inside your body. Notice, do you feel the stretch evenly on the right side, on the left side, underneath the right shoulder or the armpit, the left armpit, front of the right hip, from the left hip, in between the ribs and the pelvis on the right side and on the left side. Noticing what you notice. Take 1 more breath. And then let's exhale, bending our knees. Let's roll onto the right side. Let the spine settle here as the gravity now comes at you from a different direction, and you take that out. And then maybe you noticed as you rolled over that there was a release as you were really opening up part of the spine that actually doesn't move much and doesn't get a lot of that movement. Let's take the left hand on the floor, reaching up with your left shoulder, not your head. So the anterior portion or the front portion of the spine doesn't actually spread open very often. And when we do that deep support, we stretch deep, tiny muscles that are on the joints of the spine. So when you come out of that, you may feel that relaxation. So let's go now, since we just did that, let's actually strengthen the muscles that help to keep that. It's called extension. This is a back bend. This position is a back bend position, and it's called extension. This position is called flexion, and we don't want flexion in our backs. We want to have extension in our backs. So let's go onto the floor and do extension. So I'm going to suggest that you take your blanket or your towel, whatever it is you have, and you place it on the mat. So when we come down, now I'm not there to watch you, so this is important that you pay attention to this. I teach this in groups live. I usually have to correct a person or two. So I'm going to try to be very articulate and explain this thoroughly. This blanket is only going to be on your torso or pillow or whatever it is you have there. It's only going to be on the torso. The neck and the head will be on the floor away from this. This is to give a little extra support in case you do have anything, any kind of flexion in the spine up here. So we're going to come down onto this, reaching to the side. When you come down, I want you to find your neck, put your hand behind your neck, and make sure that behind your neck is the mat without the blanket. And let the blanket begin right at the top of the shoulders. So the blanket begins at the top of the shoulders, and your entire spine is supported by the blanket. And then lengthen your head back so it's the middle part of the head that's touching the floor. We're going to get ourselves nice and aligned here for our bridge pose. Take your block or a blanket, if you have one, and put it between your knees so that you can activate the adductors, which also activate pelvic support, pelvic floor engagement. So you're going to contract the block, squeeze the block,
activating that pelvic support. Head is nice and long. The tip of your nose is pointing straight up towards the sky. The arms are alongside your body. Walk your feet closer to your body. Squeeze the block and then tilt your pelvis posteriorly so that the low back presses into the blanket and you're squeezing the block. Now squeeze your tushy and lift your tushy away from the floor, maybe only about 3 or 4 inches. And then slide the shoulder blades closer towards the center of your body, closer to the spine. The hands are alongside your body. And then you're going to squeeze the block. Feel as if the back were touching the floor. So you're in that posterior tilt. Squeeze your tushy, squeeze the block, lift your body away from the floor. Feel your rib cage lifting away from the floor. Think about the rib cage. Close your eyes. If you could clasp your hands underneath, clasp your hands. And if you cannot clasp your hands without resting on your upper arms, you don't want your rib cage resting on your upper arms. When you clasp the hands, it's the outside of the arms that press into the floor, and the shoulder blades press the rib cage away from the floor. So if you cannot lift that high, which you might not be able to, then bend your elbows. Keep your upper arm bones right alongside your upper rib cage. Bend your elbows. Let your fingertips point up to the sky and your palms face inward and towards each other. Squeeze that block. Squeeze the tushy. This can also help with disc herniation at the lower lumbar spine and help to realign that lower lumbar. So let's get our lumbar nice and aligned here. Squeeze the tushy, squeeze the block, and lift the pelvis. Adding that extension into the lumbar spine, extension into the thoracic spine. When you need to come down, if you need to come down, come down. Strengthening the muscles of the back of the body to hold you into this extension position. Feel your shoulder blades at the back of the body pushing forward towards your heart. Harder to go slower in the practice, harder to hold the poses. Come down if you need to, and if you could take one more breath, take one more big, slow, long breath. Contract the glutes, lengthen the knees, squeeze the block. And then when it's time to come down slow, 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 slow. Until you come all the way down. Let's take the block out to the side. Let's bring yourself all the way over onto your tummy and move up a little bit so that the blanket is on your hip bones, the frontal hip bones, and come up onto your elbows and your forearms so that you can get some length here in your spine. So feel the pubis bone, feel the pelvis, feel the hip bones in the floor. And then your elbows are directly underneath your shoulders. So if they are wide, please bring them back so that they are alongside, right underneath your shoulders. And then press your palms into the floor, press your forearms into the floor, lengthen. Now pull your rib cage away from your pelvis. So feel length coming into your body. And with that length, bring yourself all the way down to the floor, lengthening your spine, trying to bring space in each vertebra. Go down, go down, go down. Let the hands come alongside the body. The palms are up towards the sky and the thumbs are touching your body. And then lift one leg up, roll it in the socket so the inner thigh rolls up towards the sky. And do the same thing with the other leg. Lift the leg up off the floor, roll the leg in the socket so the inner thigh rolls up towards the sky. Forehead touches the floor and the nose so that your back neck is nice and long. And on the inhalation, lift the legs off the floor, rolling the inner thighs up towards the sky. Lift the upper body off the floor, reaching the head away from you, and then reach the hands up off the floor. Hands reach away from you, feet reach away from you, head reaches away from you. Lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. Find that length in your body. You're lifting your limbs up. Now we're strengthening this posterior chain to hold you into this nice postural aligned position, going in a different direction with gravity. If you'd like to go a little bigger with this, slide the shoulder blades towards each other first on the back, and then roll the palms down towards the ground. Keep the shoulder blades on the back as you lift the arms out towards the side. If you'd like to bend the elbows, you could bend the elbows. So you could play with different things here, depending on what your body tells you it needs. Reach your fingers, reach your feet away from you, reach your head away from you. Feel the strength in this. Feel yourself pushing up against gravity. So push up, lift up, be strong. Feel the strength in your body here, strengthening the muscles. Take one more breath. And then you're going to bring yourself all the way down. Turn your head in one direction. Let your arms come down alongside your body. It doesn't matter which direction your head is turning. Try to get the cheek and the ear to touch the floor. So there's a lot of rotation in your neck. And if it rested, you feel a lot of tightness, you could take the arm of the direction your face is pointing, let the arm go out to the side, the palm goes down on the floor if you need a relief, if there's too much stretch happening in the neck. Down to your belly. This will help. We just did 2 back bends in a row. That's pretty intense. So breathe down to the belly. Feel the belly expand. Feel it pushing up towards the back of the body and feel it stretching the lower back. Take one more breath. You're going to turn your chin down towards your chest, lift your head up, turn your head in the other direction. So it's the ear and the cheek that are touching the floor. Feel the stretch. Notice if on this side it's too intense. For some it may be. And if that's you, you take your arm out to the side, palm is down on the ground, or bend the elbow. So keep the head where it is, but let the shoulder blade and the arm move, which can help to release some of that tension. Take your feet a little wide here, as wide as your mat, and let your pelvis move back and forth side to side. Imagine that when you move side to side, you're able to shake your soft tissue as you're relaxing, and you allow the spine to settle, the pelvis to settle, all the bones to settle in the soft tissue. And then take one more breath. Let's take the right arm up, roll onto your right side, bending your knees, bending your arm. Let's take the hand on the floor in front of you. We're going to reach up with our shoulder. So try to practice not letting your head and your back pull you up and really loading up. If you go slow, it's harder. Slower is harder and more effective for building muscles. So you decide. I would like to say that anyone out of their 30s, there's a degeneration of muscular tissue, musculoskeletal tissue happening. So if we slow down and we go slower and we do these movements in those few seconds that we're actually moving from one position to the other slowly, we have that opportunity to actually strengthen the muscles that are potentially degenerating with age. So I say that let's go slow so that each moment we're slowing down, we're actually getting stronger. Okay, let's come and do a twist now. Sometimes the twisting action can actually bring a little relief to some of the back bending that we just did. The blanket that we're going to sit on, or a bolster, or whatever you need, depending on how much tightness you have in your body, the more elevation you have, the easier it'll make your joints, the hips, and all the other stuff that needs to bend and move. So fold your blanket. Let's bring ourselves to sit on the blanket, finding this Dandasana staff pose. If you reach down and you grab a hunk of flesh, you'll feel the bone make a nice connection on the blanket. And that's going to be helpful to help your body sit upright, to find the position for the pelvis so that the sacrum, which is the base of the spine, can have a nice place to extend out of. Come into your Dandasana pose. This is staff pose, Dandasana, a pose of posture. Bring your arms down alongside your body
And now what you're going to do is you're going to look to the side and you're going to notice, are my arms alongside my body, or are they forward, or are they backward? Is my body back? And notice all of these things and try to align yourself right on top of your pelvis. Even the act of doing this is doing a lot of work before we even go too deeply into the pose. Now make your feet very active. Your legs are very active. Push your legs into the floor. Notice how if you push them into the floor, it actually helps you to get a little taller. And then let's bring one hand up into a scarecrow position and then the other. And then contract your legs, make your leg muscles really strong here. Push them into the floor. Now look to the side and notice where your hand is in relationship to your wrist and your elbow. For many, the hands usually are forward of the elbows. So press the hands back and try to get your arms to go alongside your body and not forward. Look from side to side. Notice the alignment. If you can lift your arms a little higher without lifting the shoulders. So don't let the shoulders come any closer to the ears. Contract your legs, press your legs into the floor. Get nice and tall here. Take one more breath and then bring yourself out. Feel that strength coming into your quadriceps. That's lovely, lovely, lovely. Been receiving a lot of comments about leg strength lately and legs being sore from practice. So I think this is amazing when we can actually really get into these quadriceps because they're so supportive for knee health, for hip health, and then for where the pelvis is, which will translate up to the spine and to posture. Okay, we're going to do one of the twists today that does actually look a little bit more like pretzel yoga, I would say. So for this, we're going to need a blanket to help elevate the pelvis on one side and a block to help get in this. So this block could be another blanket or something if you didn't have a block at home. So what we need here is we're going to put one buttock on the blanket. So if you get this corner, you bring the blanket so there's a corner. And then when I come to sit, you let one buttock sit on the blanket. And the buttock that's on the blanket, the opposite, that leg, the leg of the buttock that's on the blanket bends and you sit with the other tushy on that heel. So now one tushy is on the heel and the other tushy is on the blanket. So finding the support of the blanket to help with that. So you can move the blanket back, try to get that. It's really right at those sits bones where we moved the flesh earlier. And then the opposite leg comes across. So it is this front knee that we're going to actually rotate in the direction of the front knee. So take your block behind you, whichever direction you've chosen. So the block is behind you. You have a knee over you. For those of you that have knees that don't like to bend, the bent leg, you could keep it straight and put this leg over and get some of this as well. Now, starting from here, for some, even being here is a lot of tension on the hips. We are doing a lot of stimulation here to the hip joint and to that posterior hip capsule. So we're pulling on the top of the femur bone, and that's going to cause the femur bone to get stronger for you, and we want that. So you're going to create space in the waist. So whatever leg is forward that you're holding on to, you're going to create space in your waist there. So let the pelvis move away from the waist. Put your hand on the block. Let's push down and get really tall here. So feel the length coming into your body. Take an inhale. And then as you exhale, you're going to let your lower ribs move first, not your belly and not below the ribs. The lower ribs move first to the side, then the middle ribs, and finally the upper ribs move. When you come into the twist, you're going to lower your shoulders, push your heart forward. So find that extension, find that back bend. Find the position we began with on the mat where you had that blanket behind your heart. Press the heart forward and rotate, rotate, rotate. The neck is just a part of this, but the neck is not where most of the action comes from. So if you did feel any excessive tension in your neck, you can release the neck. Even, let's all do this together. Let's take your head forward, but keep the rotation in your trunk. And notice how you still have that rotation in your trunk. And then bring your head back into the twist. Take one more breath. As we exhale to release, you're going to exhale, exhale. Let go of the tension wherever you felt that tension created. And then we're gonna go to the other side. This pose is definitely one to create a lot of great stimulation in the hip capsule. And it's also a pose that's a challenge for some if they have flexion issues in joints. Let's take the other buttock onto the blanket. And it's the leg of the tushy cheek that's being supported by the blanket that bends, okay? And you bring that heel underneath your tushy. For those of you that it doesn't bend, you could keep it straight and you would sit with both buttocks on the support. So bring that heel. So you feel the opposite tushy cheek touching that heel, supported by that heel, and you put the blanket under the other buttock. So one tushy's on a heel, one tushy's on a buttock. And then try to find this equal aspect. So let space come into that waist of that forward knee. We're putting a lot of tension into that hip. Press your feet into the floor and that'll give you some nice support and let you find that length in your body. Then you're gonna hold onto your knee that's across your body. Take your hand on the block behind you. Keep the hand behind you bent so that you're not putting your weight into it, but rather you're just using it to actually rebound and get tall out of that. Press your hand into the floor or the block or whatever it is it's on. If you have longer arms, you could be on the floor. That doesn't work for me, but for some it does. Push your body into the floor, get nice and tall. Lower ribs, move them to the side, whichever side you're rotating towards. Then the middle ribs, and then finally the upper ribs. Lower the shoulders, press the heart forward, slide the shoulder blades towards each other. Feel this twist. Some of you may experience this in your hip where there's a lot of stretching taking place. This is the side that I had the hip replacement. So I am able to feel a lot of force with this leg coming across the midline on the back of this hip joint. And then we're bringing this rotational aspect up into the spine. So this twist actually is creating a lot of tension in the spine and the hip. So we're getting a lot of things at once here. Press your hand into the block or floor, get tall, rotate lower ribs, middle ribs, upper ribs, lower the shoulders, press the heart forward, bring your awareness back to your shoulder blades and use the shoulder blades to press forward towards the heart to lift the heart forward. And then lengthen your neck. Again, if you're experiencing a lot of tension in the neck, you can unwind the neck or keep it where it is. Take one more breath. And then you're going to bring yourself back to center, coming all the way out. Let's take the blanket onto the mat and bring your shins and your knees on the mat. Just come up here and shake your hands. So far, we've created a lot of stimulation in the spine for the bones in terms of bone remodeling. We've also done a lot to strengthen the muscles of posture. And so this is really nice so far for all of that. Hopefully you felt that. We're going to move on now. We're going to come to a standing position. Before we do, we're going to go through a plank. I'm going to suggest a minute plank. I'll tell you at the 30-second mark if you'd like to come down at 30 seconds. And with the plank, you can choose to do a full version of plank or a modified version of plank. Or for those of you that the wrists don't like this, you can come down into a modification of a dolphin or a full dolphin where the knees are off. So choose what's appropriate for your body. And not one is better than the other, but one may be better than the other for you. And that's what matters, is the best part for you. So let's take the foot behind, take an inhale. As you exhale, lift the other foot up or whatever it is you're going to be doing. And then make sure your hands are underneath your shoulders. Look down at your hands and press your hands into the floor. Press your fingertips and the knuckles into the floor. So distribute this weight, not just in your wrists, but throughout your hands. And then if you'd like to have your feet be like hip distance or a little wider, now press that left foot into the floor like crazy. Feel the left lower rib pressing up towards the back. Feel the left fingertips pressing into the floor. And now bring that pressure over to the right side. Press the right foot into the floor, the right lower rib towards the spine, the right hand. That's 30 seconds. That's past 30 seconds for those of you that want to come down. Sorry. And lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. Lengthen out your heels. Lengthen out the crown of the head. Press your fingers in. Feel the strength in your body. Push yourself away from the floor. Feel like you're really trying to push yourself, almost like you're going to try to jump off the floor an inch. And then let's bring yourself down. And feel how great that feels, how strong that feels in your body, to feel all those muscles, to feel this blood moving through the body in the way that it is. Let's take your hands down alongside the body. Let's inhale, let the arms go up. Look up with your throat, with your head, and then exhale, chin to chest. Inhale, palms are up. Exhale down. Inhale, stay here. Let one hand come down alongside your body and the other hand reaches up. Laterally bend the spine. Try to open up whatever arm is in the sky. And if you have shoulder issues, try this with a bent elbow. Sometimes that is a little easier to do. And try to pull the lower ribs away from the top of the pelvis. So it's really more about flexion than it is about trying to get your body weight over. You're trying to laterally flex your spine, opening up that side of your body. Take one more breath. Bring yourself up. Let's go to the other side. You're going to turn your palm upward. Inhale to lift the arm up. Feel that stretch and then laterally flex over. Create space between the lower ribs and the top pelvis. This is good for low back, stretching the muscles of the low back and the muscles that rotate the trunk. And we just did a lot of rotation, a lot of back bending. So stretching those muscles that we worked quite a bit today so far in the practice. Take one more breath. And then bring yourself back to center. Let's do a little bit of inhale open. This is the position we worked a lot today, is that extension. Feel how the shoulder blades slide towards the spine here. And then when you exhale to hug yourself, don't round your spine. Exhale to hug yourself. Try to bring your fingers back as far as you can so you're sliding the shoulder blades away from the center of the spine. Inhale to open, slide the shoulder blades back towards each other. Feel them pinching in between the middle of the spine, like there, as if there was a pencil there that you were holding. And then let's try to get the other forearm to go on top, moving the hands away from each other. Inhale to open. Feel the shoulder blades slide, glide, and contract towards each other. Exhale, and then one more. And then bring yourself back to center. Let's take the wrists, give your wrists a little shake. That plank pose, if you were up on your wrist, very strengthening. So for those of you that would like to come up from here, I'm going to do a plank down dog flow, a little more strengthening. But if you prefer to come up from here, you could bring a foot forward and slowly bring yourself up to standing if that's appropriate for you. And then for those of you that would like to come through a flow, you're going to take your hands on the mat a little wider than your body and a little forward. Now, the important thing for this when we do this is if the head looks down, it's going to bring a roundness into the spine and a roundness into the upper trunk. So when we do this flow, keep your gaze forward. So your eyes are looking forward. So you're actually lifting your head the whole time and you're not allowing it to round. Your hands wide. Take your knees pretty wide. Flip your toes under. Inhale. As you exhale, push your tushy up. Bring yourself back. And here's the opportunity to move your heels towards the floor to stretch the calves. And then you're going to inhale forward into a plank. Exhale, push your belly button up towards your spine. Knees can be slightly bent, look forward. Inhale. Feel your tissue stretch. This is to stretch the back body. Push down the pinky toe edge of the heels. There's a big piece of fascia that lines the whole back of the body and comes over around the head and attaches to the forehead. So stretch your fascia and then stay here, bend your knees. Let's walk ourselves back, back, back. Until your feet touch, your gaze is forward. Until your feet touch, let the soles be flat. Take one hand at a time, slide the shoulder blades towards the spine. Find that in your body. And then you're going to slowly, slowly push yourself up to standing. Now, if you need a chair, grab a chair. So I'll give you a few minutes to grab a chair. Let me get mine. So you don't have to have a chair. Just for some of you, it may be better to have a chair. So having that as access so that you stay nice and safe here when you are practicing. Safety is the key. So if you have any issues with balance, it's better to have the chair. So that's why I like to suggest that. So let's work on our Tadasana alignment. We've done so much so far in today's practice to strengthen the muscles that hold you here. This Tadasana pose is mountain pose that is in all poses and was added, I think, to Dr. Fishman's second series of poses. So you're going to begin with your feet hip distance, and hip distance is closer than most think. The big toes are not very far apart, and the big top part of your foot is closer together than the bottom. So let's bring yourself with your feet in this position just to see how it feels. Try not to let the feet go out to the side. The toes are pointing forward. And then let's take the hands down alongside the body. The palms are facing forward. And you're just going to do a little side to side to feel different parts of your feet activate. I think that this would be a really nice practice, actually, to work on every day, figuring out where the heck you are in space. Bring yourself forward, bring yourself back. It's almost like this is our ability to communicate on a daily basis through our nervous system to our brain to say, okay, let's get in alignment today. Let's figure out where we are. So come forward, feel how the toes begin to grip the floor when you start to go a little too far or when you go farther. I'm not going to say it's too far. Who knows if it's too far or not? It is what it is. Then bring yourself so that you're equally weighted in your feet and try to find that. Do whatever you need to do. Notice if both heels have the same pressure in each heel. And if one feels more, can you push the other one in and just see what that does? This is the kinetic chain beginning in the feet, through the ankles, through the knees, through the hips, up to the pelvis, the sacrum, which is in the pelvis, which then translates to the spine, which is attached to the rib cage, which is up here with the clavicle, the shoulder blades, and the arm bones. And then, of course, there's that neck and head of ours. So notice what you notice here. See what you can feel and experience in your body. And then let's be very active. Fingertips are reaching down towards the ground. Push your hands back. Feel the shoulder blades gliding towards the spine. Press your feet into the floor evenly. Gently activate the kneecaps as if they're lifting up towards your pelvis, and feel how this kind of frees up the pelvis and allows the pelvis to go more into a neutral position. Zipper up your body. So push your knees, feel like you're pushing your knees towards each other, and feel how that activation goes up the adductors to the pelvic floor. And then zipper up your midsection. Bring your awareness to both lower ribs and gently press them towards the spine without rolling the shoulders forward. And then lift the ribs. So your lower ribs are moving towards your spine, and then you're lifting your chest. So it's a very small movement. Fingertips feel like they have weights and they're reaching down. Push the hands back. Put your head back on top of your spine. Notice if it was forward. Most of the time they are. Chin is parallel to the floor. Imagine there's a string in the center of your head, lengthening you up towards the sky. Feel all of this in your body. Let this perfectly anatomically aligned mountain pose find its home in your body. Take one more breath.
And then you're gonna slowly, slowly let this come out of your body. Let's move into the chair pose, lightning bolt pose, strengthening the lower body. And now that we've worked with this nice alignment, bring your toes, you could stay where you are, I'm just turning to the side. This is called lightning bolt pose. So think about your body taking the lightning bolt shape. Take your hands on your hips. First things first, let's make sure we're bending properly. The spine stays in its natural curves. When you bend, it's at the hip joint. So your knees are not going to do much here, it's your hips. Maybe let's take our hands right here. So take the hands, the pinky hand, the pinky part of your hands, right here. So you feel right where your legs attach to your body, and then push back as you bend. Feel that happen. You might feel this, experience this in the glute area. And your back stays nice and straight. Okay, this is hip flexion, proper hip flexion. Walk the feet so that they're hip distance. Actually, some of you could touch your big toes, but the back heels will still be about 2 inches apart, because that's the natural size of the legs. Now, push your knees in towards each other and then zipper up your midsection before you begin to bend. So zipper up, pushing your belly button back, feel that supporting your lumbar spine. And then take your hands on your hips, keep your throat open, bend your body right at your hip joint, bend, bend, bend. And then you can bend your knees a little bit if you'd like. Stay here. You should feel a pretty strong sensation at the very center back of the buttocks. And then bring one hand forward and bring the other hand forward. And then lift the hands up, lift the torso, but keep the lower body where it is. So try to get a lightning bolt shape into your body. If you could go down a little deeper, if that feels appropriate for you, try that. And then imagine in your hands, you're holding a block. So open up your hands and feel like you're pushing them towards each other with resistance. Zipper up, protect that low body. And then can you lift your toes off the floor? And if that gives you too much unsteadiness, don't do it. Or let the big toes touch the floor and lift the other 4 off. Reach the energy out the fingertips so your arms are straight, or as close to straight as you could get them here. Take one more breath. And then take your hands together and slowly, slowly bring yourself up. Loading up the glutes, loading up the legs. More opportunities to strengthen our legs, which is really great. Okay, we're gonna do the warrior 3, which involves this hip flexion. And because we've been working with this hip flexion, I feel pretty good about this. With the warrior 3, when we come forward, we're actually gonna come forward flexing the hip joint on a straight leg. Single leg. This is what warrior 3 is. Okay, so we're going to work with this. Now, one thing to be careful, this is your hip light, these are your hip lights, this is your heart light. So when we come up, we want our hip lights to point straight down to the ground. You want to make sure that when you come down, you don't come into this open hip position. You want to keep your hips square to the ground. So that's going to determine how high up your leg lifts. Now, this may be your warrior 3. And that's okay. And this may be your warrior 3, or this may be, or this may be, or this may be. And the full expression of the pose is when the arms are straight out in front of you. Okay? So you're going to find your warrior 3. Let's do, it doesn't matter which leg you begin with. So bring your legs into that nice aligned position, and then bring your awareness to the flexion of the hip joint. You can have a slight bend in the hips, slight bend in the knees. Whatever foot you're going to stand on. So I like to have a chair here because I like to come in with a nice alignment. So but you don't have to do that. Take your hands on the chair if you have that. Load up the leg you're going to come down onto, and then look forward as you come down into your warrior 3. The leg that's lifting is active. The hips are pointing down towards the ground. The foot is flexed, toes are moving towards you. And if you'd like to take the opposite hand off, you could take the opposite hand off, contract your core, support your belly, make sure your weight is in your heel or evenly distributed in the foot that's on the floor, and make sure those toes are touching the floor. If you want to come into full expression, you could take the other hand off and see if that feels okay for you. Lifting the leg, lifting the hands,
contracting the core and the belly. Feel what feels appropriate for you, whichever version you're going to choose. Take one more breath. And then you're going to slowly, slowly, slowly bring yourself up. Let's take a break for a second. A lot of load and a lot of work for your glute, the largest muscle in your body, as that brings you into that flexion position and then holds you all your body weight on that one leg. So just notice what you notice. 30-second holds are what we go for in the practice of osteoporosis because there's stimulation anywhere from 8 seconds to 72 seconds. And so we go for this nice sweet spot of around 30 seconds. Today may be a little longer. All right, so we're gonna load up the other foot. You're gonna take the foot so that you're getting ready to load up that foot. Chair, if you're using a chair, this could be done near a wall, could be done near the counter as well. So let's begin by adding that flexion. Keep your spine nice and long as you come forward into back leg is lifting. So come forward into whatever is the good version of this for you. You could have both hands on the chair. You want to make sure that that knee is not moving towards the other side. And then check your hip lights. Where are your hip lights? That's important. Make sure that your hip lights are active. If you want to take the opposite hand off, if that's appropriate for you or both, you do what's appropriate for you. Both hands off if you can do that. Get your weight evenly weighted on that foot. Lift that back leg and make sure the hip lights are pointing down. So don't lift the legs so much that you compromise the integrity of the pose and you open up the hips. Do what's appropriate for you. Take one more breath. And then you're going to put a slight bend in that knee and you're going to bring yourself down and you're just going to feel what you feel and notice what you notice. And then notice your heart rate. Let's do the tree pose. Ooh. Actually, we're going to do Ardha Chandrasana. So we're just going to go big today. So Ardha Chandrasana, you can do this either with a chair or with a block. So now we're going to load up one leg like we just did with Warrior 3. But the thing with Ardha Chandrasana, you're either going to do it on a chair, you're going to do it near the wall, or you're going to do it with a block. The thing with Ardha Chandrasana is now the hips open forward. So it's like an open version of the Warrior 3, right? We were in that Warrior 3 position, and then you move from that Warrior 3 into that Ardha, but don't come from Warrior 3. I'm just saying that's what we were doing. So now we're going to come into Ardha Chandrasana. So wherever you're going to go, if you need a chair, you can also do this in a chair. Let your foot point in the direction of the chair or the block. And then press the foot in and lift the leg. Make it very active. So you're using the side body here. Lift your leg up, point your toes forward, and your hips come forward. And then you can bring your arm straight up or bring your arm over. Last strong pose of the day. Let's make it a good one. Creating a lot of stimulation in that hip of the standing leg you're on, and then working really hard on the lateral chain muscles of the leg that's lifted in the air. So be where it's appropriate for you. The leg that's in the air is flexed. It's lifting up. It's very active. The arm can be overhead or straight up or on your waist, whatever feels appropriate. Hips are forward. Take one more breath. And then bend the standing leg to take the pressure out and bring yourself out. Let's go to the other side. Oh boy, my legs feel a little like, kind of like Jell-O. That's good. So it's nice to be able to have this practice to work on this, to be strong, so we can stay strong, so we can walk, we can hike, we could do all the things in our lives that we want to do and not just let the body break down. So you're going to let your toes face in the direction of the chair. You're going to bend at your hip joint. You're either going to come down onto the block and then lift your leg up, or you're going to let your hand be on the chair. So whatever is appropriate for you, lift that leg. Make sure that leg is very active, that's lifting up. So you're really working that lateral chain. Hand is up or hand is up and over. And then if you needed to do this near a wall, a little easier, and it's actually a great place to work on the strength to be near a wall, to let your hands touch a wall so you can not be so concerned about the balance and really work on strengthening the body. So there's many different ways to practice these poses. And because these bigger poses here have strength, flexibility, and the balance, sometimes being near a wall gives you the ability to work on the strength a little more, especially if balance is an issue. Zipper up your midsection, so protecting that low back. Lift that leg up, flex that foot. Arm is wherever you need it to be. Take one more breath. And then you're going to bend that standing leg. Bring yourself down. Oh boy. So we are going to come down onto the floor and finish with our knees into our chest and then our Shavasana pose. So bring yourself all the way down onto the floor. Get your blanket and whatever props you're going to use for your Shavasana. You're going to come down onto the floor, do a little to relieve our backs. We did a lot today with the back. So bringing yourself onto the floor, you're going to bring your knees into your chest. And notice your body right now, how it feels. A lot of strong work today. A lot of strong work. A lot of bone stimulation, a lot of muscular strengthening, a lot of lengthening, a lot of strengthening on the joints, the stabilizers, doing those single leg. A lot of the stuff that we did today, strengthening the stabilizers, began today by opening them. Take your hands on your kneecaps. So you're coming from up above to down below, holding onto your kneecaps. Inhale here. And then as you exhale, draw your knees slowly straight in. Let the low back press up against the floor. Inhale to straighten the arms. This is called Uttanasana. This is a digestive pose to digest not only the physical food we eat, digest emotions, digest issues. So if anything arose today where maybe you weren't able to do something and you felt a little mad at yourself or frustrated, let's digest that. Let's let that go. In yoga philosophy, I told you the main goal is the liberation from suffering. And to find that, we need to find harmony in the mind. It's called a sattvic mind, finding perfect balance in the mind. And the stuff of the mind is called chit, like C-H-I-T. That's the stuff of the mind, like thoughts and agitation and movements of the mind. So if our minds were a pond of water and we saw ripples in the water, that's the chit moving the water. So I'm going to say, let's let that chit go. All right, bring yourself into a happy baby. This is a lovely way to settle the body, settle the low back. You either spread the legs and hold on behind the thighs, or you reach up and grab the toes if you have access to the toes, or you can hold on to the feet. And for some of you, you may notice that there's a little more range of motion in your body now because we did some stretching of the hip joint when we were flexing forward in that hold, that warrior three, and then even stuff in that Ardha Chandrasana. So bring your knees into your chest again, rocking side to side. There it is. It's time to do our last and final pose of the day that we all love. The fan favorite, Shavasana.
find yourself in a fully comfortable position and stay with your breath. Try to let that chit go by staying with your breath, staying in this present moment. Gobinde mo kamne, udare apare, hariyam kariyam, nimame akame. Gobinde mo kamne, udare apare, hariyam kariyam, nimame akame. Gobinde mo kamne, udare apare, hariyam kariyam, nimame akame. Gobinde mo kamne, udare apare, hariyam kariyam, nimame akame. Gobinde mo kamne, udare apare, hariyam kariyam, nimame akame. Gobinde mo kamne, udare apare, kariyam kariyam, nimame akame. Gobinde mo kamne, udare apare, hariyam kariyam, nimame akame. Gobinde mo kamne, hariyam kariyam, nimame akame. Gobinde mo kamne, udare apare, hariyam kariyam, nimame akame. Gobinde mo kamne, udare apare, hariyam kariyam, nimame akame. Gobinde mo kamne, udare apare, hariyam kariyam, nimame akame. So gently begin to deepen the breath. Bring your awareness to your mind, and the mind is. Notice if you were able to stay with the breath or if it did run off. It's the nature of the mind to be active. We're not trying to stop the mind. We're trying to not let it run us around. Let's take your fingers, your toes, bring movement to your fingers, your toes. And then draw the knees, bring the knees into the chest. Bring your knees into how the low back flattens on the floor. And then bring yourself onto your side. Lead with the shoulder, not the head. Go slow. Feel that strength in your muscles. Wow, I'm so strong. Feel your shoulder muscle, your arm. Wow, it's so nice to get being strong. Right? Being strong is better than not being strong. We're going to close our practice today. And before we do, we're going to remember that we learned some things today. And one of them is we have a lot of chit going on in our minds. So you're going to notice throughout the day, how active is my chit? And can I stop it? Or can I breathe in the present moment? Can I come back to this day, this time, and not be in the future or not be in the past? Bring your hands to your chest, nice and tall, connecting our mind, our body, and in this case, through sound, to your spirit or soul, if that resonates with you. We're going to use the sound Om, blending the Ah, the O, and the sound. Take a deep breath all the way down to your belly. We bow to each other in namaste. Namaste. Well, aren't we lucky that we had this opportunity to work our tushies off today and to do what we just did to our hips, to our joints, to our spine, to our postural muscles, to our glutes, to our quads, to our core, and everything else. That's our vitamin G for the day. You're welcome, Carol. You're welcome, Athena. Good morning, Carolyn. I don't think I got to say hi to you. And it was so good to have you, Athena. Yeah, Shannon. Well, I know that this resonated with you, just with your comments from the beginning. And it's really interesting for me. I guess part of what I'm noticing for myself is that it's the interaction with each other that is so important. When we're in physical space together, we actually feel each other's energy. We notice each other. We see each other. There's something about that that's really profound. And I think for me, it's a reciprocal relationship. Being a teacher of yoga is not just, here you go, let me just share this with you. Although, of course, that's what I'm doing and I want to do that. But it's also that you guys are my teachers and I learn from you as well, whether that's how you're feeling or what you tell me is going on. So yeah, Dina, let that chit go. It's Chitriti Norodha. It's the second sutra in the guidebook or the limbs, the 8 limbs of yoga, which is what most yoga is based on, is the 8 limbs. And so Chitta Vritti Nirodha, moderate the fluctuations of the mind, or as one of my teachers says, it's like a whirlpool. And a whirlpool, if you think about the whirlpool on the top of the ocean, looks nice and calm, but underneath there's all this turmoil and chaos. And that's what it's like for us. I could look like, oh, Debbie looks so happy, things are so great. And meanwhile, I could be like, which is kind of the way I was this morning, trying to figure out my webinar on Tuesday and the platform and all that. So anyway, I do this because I love it, because I believe in it, because I think it's the answer to be happy and to be healthy. And that's why I'm here. And that's what I'm sharing with you guys. So we're going to let the chit go. Great. Oh, Kathy. And Kathy, I'll tell you what resonates with me is when you told me your leg strength feels like it was when it was in your 20s. And so that like stands out for me so big time. I hope that's still the case. Yes. Lynn. Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much. Oh, thanks, Shannon.
Thank you so much for joining me. I'll be back on Saturday, and then my big event is on Tuesday. I've got a lot of people registered, and we're figuring out the platform for Zoom. There's so many technical issues, and I'm on webinars all the time. I'm in a program right now for 52 weeks with my teacher in India, and I do it every Saturday or Sunday. We switch, and there's 113 of us on his webinar, and it's just amazing. There's just always something going on somewhere, even with the super technical husband that I have. Anyway, thank you for being here. I hope you are sore today in a good way, and I hope your bones are getting stronger all day long. All right, see you all later. Bye.